1 year ago, Emily blocked his toxic father forever. Today, I'll show you exactly what happened, and why never regrets it. I woke up the next morning to a world that seemed slightly more bearable, but not by much. The sky was a dull gray, the kind of day that matched the heaviness still pressing against my chest. Emily was still asleep in her room, the silence of the house stretching around me like a blanket I couldn't quite shake off. I had spent most of the night thinking about everything, the meeting with Daniel, the disappointment in Emily's eyes, the way he had let her down. But I knew something else too. It was the quiet realization that had crept up on me in the dead of night: healing begins with letting go. And I had to start with myself first. I had been holding on to anger for so long. Holding on to the hurt, the resentment, the pain of being abandoned by the man I had once loved. It was easier to stay angry, to blame him for all the wrongs in my life, than to face the truth, that I had allowed his actions to control so much of my own life. And now, I was doing the same to Emily. She was beginning to pull away from the man who had hurt her, but I was still holding on. To the anger. To the hurt. To the cycle of betrayal that had consumed me. I knew I couldn't let this happen to her, and I couldn't let it happen to me anymore. I grabbed a cup of coffee and sat down at the kitchen table, staring out at the empty house. I could feel the weight of everything that had happened, the years I had spent running from my past, the decisions that had led me here, and the painful journey ahead. But in that moment, I made a decision. I would stop carrying the weight of the past. I would stop allowing it to dictate my every move, my every thought. I had done enough damage to myself, and I wouldn't do it to Emily. This right here? This is why you need to hit subscribe. Because what comes next, what we've been through, no one talks about this. But you? You get it. You've lived it. And in 30 seconds, I'm going to show you why every single one of these videos matters. But I can't keep doing this without you. So please, tap subscribe right now. Because what's coming? It's going to change everything. I grabbed a cup of coffee and sat down at the kitchen table, staring out at the empty house. I could feel the weight of everything that had happened, the years I had spent running from my past, the decisions that had led me here, and the painful journey ahead. But in that moment, I made a decision. I would stop carrying the weight of the past. I would stop allowing it to dictate my every move, my every thought. I had done enough damage to myself, and I wouldn't do it to Emily. When I heard Emily's door creak open, I looked up and saw her standing in the hallway, her face drawn with the exhaustion of the previous day's emotional toll. Her eyes were still red from crying, but there was a different kind of quiet strength in her now. A strength I hadn't seen before. "Hey," I said softly, trying to hide the worry that still lingered in my voice. "How are you feeling?" She shrugged slightly, her arms crossed over her chest. "I don't know," she murmured. "I thought I'd feel better. But it's like everything's still a mess. I don't even know what to think anymore." I nodded, understanding exactly how she felt. I had felt that way for years. When you're faced with the truth, the raw, unfiltered truth, it shatters everything you thought you knew. And rebuilding it all takes time, more time than I wanted to admit. "Emily," I began, setting my coffee cup down on the table and turning toward her, "he didn't break you. He can't. You're not the same girl I was back then. You're stronger than I ever was, and that's something you need to remember." She looked at me, her brow furrowed in confusion. "How can you say that? I feel like I've lost everything. He said he wanted to be there for me, but he wasn't. And now? I don't even know who I am anymore." I walked over to her, pulling her into a hug. "I know you're hurting," I whispered, holding her tightly, "but you don't have to lose yourself in the hurt. You don't have to let him define who you are. You are not what he said you were. You are not the girl he wanted you to be. You are you, and that's enough." She clung to me, her body shaking with the sobs she hadn't let out the day before. And I let her cry, because it was what she needed. She needed to feel the weight of everything, to let the tears cleanse the anger and the pain she had been carrying. After a few minutes, she pulled away, wiping her eyes and taking a deep breath. I don't know if I can forgive him, she said quietly, her voice still trembling. I don't know if I ever will. I smiled softly, brushing a stray hair from her face. You don't have to forgive him, Emily. Forgiveness doesn't mean you forget the pain he caused you. It doesn't mean you erase the hurt. It means that you choose to move on. You choose to not let him have that power over you anymore. But I don't want to be like you, she said, her voice cracking. I felt the sting of her words, but I didn't let it show. You're not like me, sweetheart. You're stronger. You don't have to carry the burden of the past. I didn't know how to let go then. I didn't know how to stop letting him control my every thought, my every action. But you do. You have the power to choose your path. She nodded slowly, though doubt still clouded her eyes. But I knew she would get there. We both would. The rest of the day passed in a blur. We talked, we cried, we even laughed a little. I showed her the photo albums I had been avoiding for years, pictures of me, of us, of the life we had before everything went wrong. It wasn't easy. Seeing myself as I had been back then, so young and naive, brought back a flood of memories I wasn't sure I was ready to face. But I needed to do this, for Emily. I needed her to see me not just as her mother, but as someone who had been broken, who had struggled, and who had fought to rebuild her life. I wanted her to see that no matter how painful the past was, it didn't have to define the future. Later that night, as we sat together on the couch, I turned to her and said, "Do you want to go get some ice cream? I think we've earned it." Her face broke into a small smile, the first real smile I had seen from her in days. Yeah, I think I'd like that. We didn't have all the answers. We didn't know how to fix everything, how to make the past go away. But for the first time in a long time, I felt like we were taking a step forward. Healing wasn't a straight line. It wasn't a simple process. But it was something we could do together. And that night, as we ate our ice cream in the living room, I realized that the hardest part was over. The decision to break the cycle had been made. And now, the healing could truly begin. The days after Emily's confrontation with Daniel were quiet, but in a way, it was the calm I had longed for. The house felt different now, filled with the kind of silence that wasn't oppressive, but one of peace slowly taking root. We were still both processing everything, she, the heartbreak of facing a father who could never live up to the man she hoped he would be, me, the realization that I had spent so much time keeping her from the truth that I had nearly smothered her ability to find her own path. But healing had begun, not just for Emily, but for me too. In our own ways, we were starting over. The mornings had changed, too. There was something more grounded in the way we approached the day now. I found myself making breakfast for the first time in ages without the weight of guilt or anger hanging over me. I cooked eggs, toast, and bacon like it was just another morning, no more complicated than it needed to be. I watched Emily as she sat at the kitchen table, eyes a little less distant than before. She didn't smile much, but there was a softness in her gaze, something lighter. Something hopeful. I set a cup of coffee in front of her, and she looked up from her phone, meeting my eyes for a brief moment before nodding her thanks. "Thanks, Mom," she said quietly, her voice still carrying traces of the sadness she had yet to let go of. But it wasn't as heavy as before. It was something we both understood, the weight of the past, but the potential of the future. We were moving toward it together, step by step. "You okay today?" I asked, trying to keep my tone casual. There was no rush. No more pretending to have all the answers. We'd take things slow, and that was okay. She nodded, her fingers absent-mindedly twirling her coffee spoon. "I think so. I'm trying to figure things out." Her words were simple, but they held a depth I hadn't heard from her in a long time. I sat down across from her, my own cup of coffee between my hands, and watched her carefully. "You don't have to figure everything out today. You've been through a lot. Take your time, sweetheart. There's no rush to get things back to normal. Not yet. Not ever." She gave me a half smile, and though it was small, it was a smile that reached her eyes, something more genuine than I'd seen in weeks. I know, Mom. I'm just trying to make sense of everything. What he said. What I felt. I know. And I'm here for you. Whenever you're ready to talk or not talk, I'm right here. For the first time in a long while, I felt like we were in sync. Like I wasn't carrying everything alone anymore. She wasn't carrying it either. We had shared this burden, and in doing so, we had both lightened the load. Later that afternoon, Emily asked if we could go for a walk. I was surprised, but I agreed without hesitation. We needed to get out of the house anyway, and something about the way she asked made me think that this was a step, a real one. She wasn't running away from the feelings. She was facing them, and she was ready to take them outside of the house where they had been confined for too long. As we walked through the park near our neighborhood, the world felt different. The air smelled of fresh grass and dew, and I could hear the laughter of children playing in the distance. The world around us had continued, had kept turning, even when we were stuck in our own pain. We walked in silence, side by side, our steps synchronized as if we were both finding our rhythm in this new chapter. I didn't push her to talk, I just let her lead. Eventually, Emily spoke, breaking the quiet between us. I feel like I'm supposed to be angry at him. Like I'm supposed to hate him for everything he did. But I don't feel that way anymore. I don't know why. I glanced at her, my heart aching for her, but also proud. Proud of the strength she was finding within herself. You don't have to be angry, Emily. You don't owe him your anger. You don't owe him anything. You don't have to carry that weight if it doesn't feel right for you. She nodded thoughtfully, looking down at her shoes as we continued walking. I think I'm just... I don't know. Trying to let go of what he did. But it's hard. It's all I've known. For so long. I placed my hand gently on her shoulder, a gesture of comfort, of understanding. Letting go is hard. But you're not alone in it, Emily. I'll always be here to help you carry it. No matter what. We walked for a few more minutes before Emily stopped. She turned to face me, her eyes serious, but there was something else there, something like clarity. I'm not going to wait for him anymore, she said, her voice firm, her shoulders square with resolve. I'm not going to hold my breath for him to come through. I'm just going to move forward. On my own. My heart swelled with pride for her, and a sense of peace washed over me. She had made it. She had come to the realization that I had been waiting for her to find. She wasn't going to allow him to keep her tethered to the past. She was ready to live her own life, to take control of her own future. She was ready to heal. I'm so proud of you, I said quietly, my voice thick with emotion. She smiled then, the kind of smile I hadn't seen in months. It was real. And it was hers. Thanks, Mom. I'm proud of you, too. That night, as we sat on the couch together, watching a movie for the first time in what felt like forever, I felt a sense of contentment I hadn't known in years. Emily was smiling more. She was laughing more. And though the journey was far from over, I knew we had taken a step towards something better, something brighter. Together. The past was still there, lingering in the shadows, but it no longer had the power to define us. We were breaking free from it, piece by piece. And that was enough for me. As the credits rolled, Emily turned to me, her face illuminated by the glow of the television screen. Mom? Yeah? I replied, glancing over at her. Can we go get ice cream tomorrow? Like, just the two of us? I smiled, feeling the warmth of her request settle deep in my chest. Absolutely. We can go anywhere you want. She nodded, a spark of happiness in her eyes. Okay. I think I'm ready for that. A new beginning. And for the first time in a long time, I believed her. I never thought healing would look like this, small, quiet moments that somehow carried the weight of 1,000 unspoken words. But here we were, Emily and I, stepping into a future we were only just learning how to shape. The first step, breakfast without shadow. The morning after Emily told me she was done waiting for Daniel, I made pancakes. Not the kind from a box, the real kind, with buttermilk and a little vanilla, the way my own mother used to make them. The kitchen smelled like warmth and something close to forgiveness. Emily sat at the table, her hair still messy from sleep, scrolling through her phone. But when I set the plate in front of her, she looked up. Really looked at me. And then she smiled. Not the kind of smile you force when you're trying to convince someone you're okay. A real one. "Remember when you used to make these when I was little?" she asked, cutting into the stack with her fork. "I remember you drowning them in syrup until they were more sugar than pancake," I said, pouring coffee into her favorite mug, the chipped one with the faded sunflower. She laughed, and I realized how long it had been since I'd heard that sound. It wasn't everything fixed. But it was a start. The second step, walking without running. We started taking walks. Not the kind where you rush to burn calories or clear your head, just slow, aimless strolls around the neighborhood. The kind where you notice things. One evening, as the sun dipped low, Emily stopped in front of an old oak tree. "This is where I used to sit and wait for Dad when I was little," she said, running her fingers over the bark. I'd pretend he was just running late. That any minute, he'd show up with some big excuse and take me for ice cream. I held my breath, waiting for the anger or the tears. But she just shook her head. "It's weird. I don't even feel sad about it anymore. I just don't care." And that, right there, was progress. The third step, redefining family. We didn't talk about Daniel much after that. But we did start talking about other things, big things, little things. Emily told me about a writing class she wanted to take. I admitted I'd always wanted to learn how to paint. One Saturday, we drove to a thrift store and bought 2 easels, a set of cheap acrylics, and a stack of canvases. We set them up in the garage, and for the first time in years, I let myself make a mess. So did Emily. Neither of us were any good, but we laughed until our sides hurt. That night, over takeout and paint-stained hands, Emily said, "We should do this every weekend." And just like that, we had a tradition. The fourth step, letting joy back in. It wasn't all deep conversations and life-changing moments. Sometimes, healing looked like binge-watching bad reality TV. Sometimes, it was Emily dragging me to a yoga class where I spent most of the time trying not to fall over. But slowly, the house stopped feeling like a place we were just surviving in. We hung new pictures on the walls, ones without Daniel in them. Emily brought home a scrappy little rescue dog who chewed up my favorite slippers and somehow made us both love him anyway. And one evening, as we sat on the porch watching the dog chase fireflies, Emily leaned her head on my shoulder. "We're gonna be okay, Mom," she said. I kissed the top of her head and whispered, "Yeah, baby. We already are." Healing isn't a straight line. Some days, the old wound still ached. Some nights, I'd lie awake wondering if I'd failed her. But then I'd hear Emily singing in the shower, or she'd text me some ridiculous meme, and I'd remember, we weren't just moving on. We were moving forward. And that? That was enough. Just when we thought the storm was over, the letter arrived. One sentence changed everything. "He's coming back. Would our fragile peace survive? Or was the past about to rip us apart all over again?" To every single one of you who has walked this emotional journey with us from part 1 to part 3, thank you. You've cried with us, raged with us, and celebrated every small victory as my daughter and I fought to reclaim our lives. None of this matters without you. But the story isn't over. More heartbreak, more healing, and more unforgettable moments are coming, and I need you there with me. Here's how you can keep this channel alive. Smash that like button, let me know if these stories hit your heart. Comment your thoughts. Should Emily ever forgive her father? What would you do? I read every single word. You can also share your story anonymously to build up the community. It will be appreciated. Share this story, tag a friend or family member who needs to see this journey. Subscribe and click the bell, turn on all notifications so you never miss a new story. This channel grows because of you. Together, let's keep telling stories that matter. The next update? It's going to break you, then put you back together. Don't miss it. Click on the next video that appears on the end screen of this video to watch more of interesting stories like you just watched. Stay tuned. Stay with me. And most of all, keep believing in second chances. Drop it in the comments if you're ready for what's next.